Hello. How are you today? How are you today?
Hi, I'm Mrs. Brandt, and I am the speech-language pathologist here at Bagley Elementary School, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about communication. Now, we all know what communication is. That's how we understand what other people say to us, but also how we're able to express what we're thinking and feeling and questions that we may have. And we know that sometimes people with autism, both kids and adults, have some difficulty with communication. Now, I want to tell you some things about that. The first important thing for you to know is many kids with autism do understand a lot of language. So they might understand some of the things that you're saying, but a lot of times they have more difficulty expressing themselves with words. We know that this is something that's difficult for kids, and there are people like me, speech-language pathologists, that can help them with that skill. Now, we also have a lot of tools that we can use to help kids that have difficulty speaking, and that's what we're here to talk about today. We have something called a talker. This is a communication device. You saw me using it here at the beginning of this video, and sometimes using a device like this can really support someone that has difficulty speaking. So this could be someone with autism or someone that has difficulty speaking for other reasons. So maybe they have muscles that are too weak to make the sounds that we make for speech. There's lots of different reasons that you might have difficulty making words. But for kids with autism, sometimes these kinds of devices can be really helpful. You can see that there's a lot of pictures, so the pictures can support having them come up with the words and the ideas that they want to say. But you can also see that this might be a little bit tricky to learn where everything is. In this talker, there's actually 8,000 words. And learning how to use a talker like this can be a little bit hard. It takes a little bit of time to learn where everything is. And really, sometimes we think of it as almost like learning a new language. This can be very helpful for kids with autism, and you might see people anywhere in your environment that might use one of these devices. We're first today going to read a little story about someone that uses a talker, a communication device, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we're going through the story too. So this is called Something to Say About My Communication Device, and it's about this girl named Kate who uses a talker. Okay, let's get started with our story. My name is Kate. I like racing cars and playing at the park. So here you are, you can see Kate at the playground, and you can see that her talker is right there with her. I'm also great at telling jokes. So probably Kate and I would be really good friends, because if you know me, you know that I really like jokes too. She says on her talker, "What do you get when you cross a turtle with a porcupine?" A slowpoke. I have a communication device. I call it my talker. So just like we've talked about, here's an example of what a talker might look like. There's lots of different kinds of talkers, but this is one that some students here might use. A lot of them look very similar, but this is kind of like what Kate has in our book. Speaking can be hard for me, so my talker helps me when I play with my friends. So here we can see Kate is playing a game with her friend, and she's using her talker. She actually says, "Your turn," on the talker. I can show you what that would look like if Kate wanted to say "your turn." Here's how she'd say it.
Your turn. Your turn.
Your turn. She also uses it to hang out with her family and to learn at school. So here you can see Kate is actually asking, "Can I have the remote?" So maybe she gets to actually pick the show tonight. This is how she might say it if she was going to ask that question at home. So she could say,
"Can I have the remote? Can I have the remote?"
So you could see that took me a little bit of time to find those words. And sometimes you might have to wait a little bit. But that's something that once you get used to waiting a little bit, it's not that hard. Using my device takes extra time. It helps me when others wait for me to say what I want to say. Really, if you think about this, it's no different than how you might have a conversation with someone else. It's always important to wait, to not interrupt, to take turns in conversations. Those are all really important things to remember no matter who you're talking to, whether it be somebody that uses a talker or anyone. I need to have my talker everywhere I go. It is my voice. So here is Kate at a birthday party. She even has her talker at the birthday party. But I think something that it said on that page that's really important to remember is it really is like Kate's voice. It's like a part of her. So we have to treat the talker as a really important part of her. It's not a toy. It's not something to play games on. It might look like an iPad, but it's actually something really, really important to Kate. I'm learning to use my talker in a lot of ways. When others listen to how I tell them things, I want to say more. So this is something that if you think about, if you're talking to your parents or your teacher or your friends, if they're asking you questions and showing interest in what you're talking about, that shows them that you care about what they're saying. If someone has their talker and they're saying something about maybe like a TV show, maybe like Paw Patrol or some other show, if you say something like, I like Paw Patrol too, that's showing them that you're interested and you're listening and you care about what they're saying. That's just an important thing, no matter, again, if someone's using a talker or if they're just talking to you. That's a good way to have a conversation and show somebody that you care. My family and teacher are getting to know my device, and my friends can even use it with me. Now, this page talks about using the talker with the person who uses it. What I like to think about with that is it's important to listen to what they're saying on the talker. Most of the time, you're not going to touch the buttons because truly, this is like a part of their body. You need to think of it like that. So if you were talking, somebody wouldn't come up and touch your mouth, and you don't really want to touch their talker. Different people have different feelings about this, but mostly we're not going to touch other people's talkers. We're just going to think of that as a part of their body. It's just important for you to listen to what someone is saying with their talker. The way I communicate might be a little different, but I want to share what I think and feel. And like we talked about, we all kind of want to do that. After all, I know a lot of things, and I have a lot to say. The end. Okay, so that is our story about Kate. If you want to know a little bit more about talkers and learn a little bit more about how we might use them, there's going to be a second video that actually shows you how we might read a story using the talker. I think we'll do one of my favorites, A Very Hungry Caterpillar. And you'll notice when we read that story, we're not necessarily putting every single word into the talker. We're not going to spell out full sentences, but we're going to think of important words that we can use to learn on the talker through a story. So we'll repeat a lot of words to really learn where they are in here. Because again, when you have a talker, it's almost like learning a new language. You'll have the chance to see that if your classroom teachers decide there's time later today. So ask them later if you're interested. Do we have time to listen to that story? Okay, if anyone ever thinks of a question, please make sure you let your teacher know or come to see me. I'm always happy to talk to you about these things and share information with you. But have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks.